Thank you, Jim, for the history. Every one of you out here represents millions of people who stand with us with the rights to bear arms. You're all representatives of people across this land that hold these rights dear to their hearts. With that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. It's J.C. Dodge. J.C.'s worked with law enforcement for over 15 years and security for 24. And he did 14 years in the military with combat service in Iraq. He started Mason-Dixon Tactical on July 4th, 2010 to help others prepare for the future and to learn to be more confident and self-reliant. With that, please give a warm welcome to J.C. Dodge.
Wow, this is awesome to see. Everybody else is on the same sheet of music. That's unusual. That's something everybody needs to keep in mind. You're not alone. You are not alone. Everybody who's standing next to you understands that. I'm going to make a statement right before I start the main part of my speech, just so everybody understands where I'm coming from. I am unapologetic about being a gun owner who is not afraid to use them in the defense of life and liberty. I am unapologetic about my belief in God and being a Christian. I guess that means I'm clinging to my guns and my Bible.
Cling away. Amen.
I am unapologetic about being a combat veteran of these United States. I am unapologetic about being a white man who has never done anything to inhibit the freedom of others and has always strived as a soldier to help them be free. I am unapologetic about judging a man by the content of his character, not the color of his skin or his ethnic background. And finally, I am unapologetic about being willing to die, promoting and defending the freedoms that our forefathers fought and died for. Friends, neighbors, patriots, we live in interesting times indeed. From outside our great republic, the enemies of that republic want to destroy the great experiment that we have. From within, we have a Congress, and to a greater extent, an administration that conspires with and equips the proven and professed enemies of our country. Time and time again, our leaders tell us that they need just a little more of our freedom to be able to secure us from whatever. But who's going to secure us from us? Secure them, secure us. I'll tell you who's going to secure us. That's patriots in the U.S. Constitution. Patriots have been called a lot of things over the years, most recently terrorists, racists, by a media that is willing to alter or delete portions of video or audio to make you come to a particular conclusion that is patently wrong. Founding fathers have been called terrorists by people that are training our law enforcement community and our children. If that is a term that they use to call our founding fathers, then everyone should strive to meet that label. Founding fathers put together two documents unique in the history of the world. The U.S. Constitution, to include the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence stand alone as premier statements of our God-given inalienable rights through the ages. As such, the enemies of freedom and justice must remove or invalidate these declarations before they can proceed with their plan to control and dominate the world. There is a reason this administration has worked so hard to negate our national sovereignty. They believe that if they negate our national sovereignty, that our state sovereignty and individual sovereignty will go right out the window. These are the two primary reasons for our Bill of Rights, our individual sovereignty and our state sovereignty. You don't see anything in the Bill of Rights about national sovereignty. I hear a lot of people talk about their constitutional rights, but they really do not understand. These are not constitutional rights. These are inalienable rights given to us by God The reason they are in the Bill of Rights is our founding fathers realized that they needed to codify these inalienable rights to make sure we understood that they knew we had them. They didn't come up with them. They didn't come up with our inalienable rights. They just wanted to make sure they were there, and they were written down so everyone knew. That was the purpose of the Bill of Rights. A privilege is something that is given to you by an individual or a group, and it can be taken away from you at a whim. An inalienable right is something that you are born with. And the only way an individual or group can take it away from you is by the use of force or you giving it up. This is what they have continually done to us through the decades, under the auspices of being more secure from the enemy, no matter what the enemy was. The Patriot Act is an example of one of the most draconian measures our government has ever used to take away our rights. All the Patriot Act has done is make it easier for the feds to legally violate your rights. That's all it's done. How many terrorists have you heard about that were caught because of the Patriot Act? How many times do you hear of people being violated by TSA, by their Viper checkpoints where they stop you, ask you for your driver's license? They can't do it. They are not legally allowed to ask you for anything at a checkpoint. If you were pulled over by a police officer for some violation, that's one thing. If you were stopped at a checkpoint, you do not have to give them any information. As a matter of fact, you might want to ask them for their information. If any of you have listened to Kelly Spinner's show, you know I have a particular view of Obamacare. Obamacare is another of countless acts by the federal government to control, restrict, and tax us into oblivion, using regulations that we're told by the U.S. Supreme Court are constitutional. Sorry, I don't think so. I don't believe it. If you haven't read these two documents, Obamacare, the Patriot Act, you need to. Do not take the word of a supposed expert about what they say. We live in an age where we have the internet that we can download a PDF file and read what it is these people are doing to us. We've never had that opportunity in our history up until the past decade or so. Use it. We had a saying in the military that tracers work both ways. Same is true for the internet. They might be able to, figure out what you're doing, where you're going, but we can do the same to them. When in history have we ever been able to keep track of what the government is doing or going to do? It works both ways, people. Like I said, there is no way that we would have had the opportunities we have today. If you see something unconstitutional being done, you need to let people know. I'm not talking about what you necessarily read on the internet. Of course, we all know everything on the internet is true, right? But if you see something that's going on, you need to verify that is really what's going on, and you need to let people know. Information is a tool. It's a weapon for them and for us. This rally is about we the people, declaring to the government at the national, state, and local level that they better keep their hands off our most effective means of defense. Period. Whether it is defense from an individual or a government, efficient, effective weapons are our right, not a privilege. This statement is being made by someone that has been in combat. I'm not a keyboard commando trying to, incite a war from my armchair. These guys, they're stuck on their Modern Warfare 3 and think that's reality. It's just like the reality TV shows you see on TV. If that's reality, We're in deeper than I thought. I'm scared to death of the prospect of a war in our country. This is a country I love. I was willing to put my life on the line, but the thought of being in a war where my children are present scares me to death. But that being said, I'm even more scared of what this nation will become if we do not act in the best interest of our children's future freedoms. You might have taken notice recently how the feds have tried to ostracize and vilify veterans and say that if they have PTSD, that they shouldn't be able to own a gun, that they're a threat to our communities. To that I say, of course they're going to ostracize and vilify veterans. Veterans are the biggest threat the federal government has, because unlike people that fancy themselves able to fight a government while having never had any background in doing such, veterans are the ones that know how to do it. Veterans are the ones that have been in that position. Every walk of life, they have been there, and then they have been in combat. And there's nothing else, can be said. Of course they're going to vilify these guys. 2009, the MIAC report said that veterans coming back were more likely going to be racist and have weapons. Well, that's kind of a no-brainer about having the weapons. As far as being racist, okay, I guess they've changed the definition of racist. I'm not really familiar with what term they're using. Military, veterans are some of the most non-racist people I've ever met in my life. I've put my life in the hands of men of every color, and they have done the same with me. I trusted my life to these guys. And for someone to tell me that I'm probably going to be a racist, well, all that is a distraction. Period. It's a distraction. When you see these things put out on the news, you need to look at what the little things are that they're barely reporting on, because more than likely, that distraction is something that is going to take your mind off of what they're doing, whether it's a distraction at some entertainment event or something that is a breaking story, which seems like everybody has breaking stories every 5 minutes on the news. The feds want you to believe that their purchase of ammunition in the billions of rounds, purchase of 2,700 armored vehicles designed to defeat mines used by the military, the use of drones, all this stuff is fine. They don't have to be accountable to us because they have our best interests at heart. Well, number one, I know they don't have our best interests at heart. Number two, they work for us. They are accountable to us. That's our money they're using to spend on that ammunition. That's our money they're using to buy these armored trucks. Period. They are accountable to us. They work for us. We need to make sure they start understanding that. The federal government, I know they believe they're invincible. They do. They're the federal government. Of course, they're here to help. I hate to tell them, but they might have the troops, they might have the equipment, but they don't have the heart and the guts that we as a people have. And they really don't have the troops that they think they have. They're assuming a lot, and that's going to be a deadly assumption. Tyrants, your time is up. We're not giving up one more inch. We're done. People in this nation have started to wake up, and it's a great thing to see. Just like today, it's awesome to see a lot of people here, people that I know are like mine. Unlike the First Lady, I've always been proud of my country. Always. My country is not necessarily my government, and it is definitely not my president this time around. My country is the American people and the American spirit. That is what my country is. I have one thing to say to my government. I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Do not put me in a position to have no other choice but to defend the Constitution with arms. The Second Amendment is one of the most clear-cut amendments in the Bill of Rights. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms. There is no ambiguity whatsoever. None. Keep means to retain in one's possession or power. Bear means to move while holding up and supporting, or to be equipped or furnished with. That's cut and dried to me. I don't need some overblown lawyer in a black robe to translate it for me. Recently, Senator Dianne Feinstein was apparently irritated by Senator Ted Cruz during a gun ban debate, and she had this to say: "I am not a sixth grader." The comment was made after Senator Cruz asked her if the constitutional authority she said Congress had and could use to ban certain guns could also be used to ban items in the Bill of Rights, specifically in the First and Fourth Amendment, and generally in the whole Bill of Rights. To Senator Feinstein, I say this: you're right, Senator. You're not a sixth grader. Act like it. Even a sixth grader knows what "shall not be infringed" means. Gun bans, whether they are at the federal, state, or local level, need to be resisted with every ounce of determination and force we have at our disposal. The Second Amendment is clear and concise. Let our message to the government be just as clear, just as concise. Let us show them the same resolve our founding fathers showed the King of England when they declared the independence of this nation. Without the ability to maintain arms for a common defense, which the Second Amendment espouses, the rest of the rights codified in the Bill of Rights can be brushed away by a tyrannical government with ease. I once told a hardcore liberal that I was a better man than him after he had railed for 30 minutes about how bad conservatives were. Of course, he was taken back by what he thought was a bold and arrogant statement and asked me how I thought this was so. I advised him at that point that the difference between us was simple. I was willing to fight and die, defending his right to disagree with me, and he was not willing to do the same thing. These people are not going to go along with what we want. They don't care what we believe. They are not willing to give us the same concessions that we have been willing to give them. You need to keep something else in mind. You know, hear people talk about revolution this, revolution that. There's even a TV show. I haven't watched it, but I heard it's about a revolution. We had a revolution in 1776. This is about a restoration. We have the tools we need. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights is all we need for that. If you want to go deeper than that, let's look at the 1791 Militia Act. Let's look at the 1903 Dick Act. All these things define what the militia really is. Go back to, the Articles of Confederation. All these things talk about people's rights. If you do not know what your rights are, you need to. Especially if you're an adult. And teach your kids. Don't let these people put thoughts in their heads in school that you don't know what they're saying, and then one day wake up and your child is a liberal, and then wonder what happened. They want total control. They do. But we're not going to give it to them without a fight.
If they had it, they wouldn't know how to use it. I'm not really big on this whole being out in the public thing. I mean, I've been on Kelly's show a few times. Radio is easy compared to this. Out here, I'm defenseless. We've all seen what has happened to people that have been the nail that sticks up. They get pounded down. If the government doesn't agree with them, they get pounded down. But with that being said,
to do nothing, especially out of the fear of repercussions, is a mark of someone whose emotions are worth more to them than their convictions. My convictions are my guiding light in this life. You know, convictions, that's what you die for. That's what you die for. You live for your kids, you die for your convictions. I would much rather die and earlier in life, you know, standing up for my convictions, no matter what they may be, than to live a long, uneventful life and die drooling into a cup while laying in bed. You know, people, how you die and how you live are the defining part of anyone's existence. The reason I'm standing before you today isn't because I'm an expert on the Constitution or that I'm into politics. Honestly, politics really disgusts me, but I guess it's a necessary evil. Fortunately, we do have some politicians that understand about the oaths they've taken and stand up for that. I'm here because I realize I have to step up to champion the cause of liberty. It is a gift that we have to preserve for our children. There are those who will not speak out due to their fear of reprisal. To those people, I recite this quote from Samuel Adams. If you love wealth more than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, depart from us in peace. We ask not your counsel, nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. I know of what I speak because I've made an effort to find out what's really going on. It really is more important than that unreality show. I've read the Patriot Act and I've read Obamacare. I keep up with the draconian edicts that come out of D.C. daily, it seems like recently, because these people have to be killed to account. I also realize that I need to hold true to the oath I took as a soldier, and that if I do not, I would be no better than the tyrants in D.C. that are violating their oaths, because they've all taken oaths. Anybody that is an elected official has taken an oath. Our sheriff has taken an oath. Our representatives have taken oaths. Chief of police, they don't take an oath. This guy in Wisconsin, that's Flynn, that has been giving the sheriff there all kinds of trouble, he never took an oath. He was appointed. He's a political hack that says that even though he finds out someone can walk down the street legally in Wisconsin wearing a firearm like I'm wearing today, he tells his officers that they need to throw him to the ground, take their gun away from him, and then they can decide whether or not they can have it. Well, to people like him, I say this. Don't tell your guys to come and take it. You come and take it. You go ahead and come and take it. I have two quotes that I'm going to read to you, and after that I have some questions. These questions you really need to think about, especially after this one quote. First one is from the book Gulag Archipelago. It took place in Soviet Russia back during the purges with Stalin. Alexander Solzhenitsyn said this, and how we burned in the camps later, thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out into the night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family, or if, during periods of mass arrest, as the example in Leningrad, where they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat in their lairs, pounding with terror at every bang of the downstairs door and every step in the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose, and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of a half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, and whatever else was at hand. The organs would quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we did not love freedom enough, and even more, we had no awareness of the real situation. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterwards. Next quote is from none other than John F. Kennedy. Today we need a nation of Minutemen who are not only prepared to take up arms, but citizens who regard the preservation of freedom as the basic purpose of their daily lives, and who are willing to consciously work and sacrifice for that freedom. Now I have some questions. 1, how much do you love freedom? 2, are you aware of the situation we face? 3, will you, like Solzhenitsyn, have to say, if only? 4, what do you think we deserve as free men? 5, are you a Minuteman prepared to take up arms? 6, as a patriot, what is your purpose? 7, what would you sacrifice for the freedom of your children? Let us not regret later what we should have done today for our children. Thank you.